The American truck drivers, 50 years on the open road. There's a certain image many Americans carry in their minds. A long stretch of highway, a chrome grille catching the sunrise, a voice crackling over the CB radio, and behind the wheel, the American truck driver. For decades, truck drivers have been a backbone of the American economy. They've hauled our food, our fuel, our cars, our medicine, and in many ways, our way of life. But over the last 50 years, the life of the American truck driver has changed dramatically. Today, we're going to take a journey, decade by decade, through the evolution of trucking in America, from the 1970s to today. From CB radios to GPS tracking, from union power to independent contractors, from freedom on the open road to algorithms and electronic logs. Let's roll on with Rollin' 18 Podcast.
Welcome to Rolling 18 Podcast. This 40-year veteran is here for anyone wanting to stay up to date in the trucking world. Grab your coffee, hop on board, and let's get on down the road with Walter Gatlin.
Now, the 1970s, of course, I wasn't driving then. I didn't start till driving in 1984. But they were the golden age of the American trucker. In the 1970s, trucking wasn't just a job, it was a culture. It was the era of chrome stacks, custom paint jobs, and CB handles like Midnight Rider and Snowman. Pop culture immortalized the trucker in the films like Smokey and the Bandit and songs like Convoy. But this wasn't just Hollywood mythology. It was a powerful, organized profession. In 1970, trucking was heavily regulated by the federal government. Rates, routes, and competition were controlled by the interstate commerce. Most long-haul drivers were unionized, many through the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, and that meant something. Strong wages, good benefits, predictable routes, and stable careers. A truck driver could support a middle-class family on a single income. But that stability wouldn't last. In 1980, deregulation changes everything. President Jimmy Carter signed the Motor Carrier Act, and this law deregulated the trucking industry. On paper, deregulation meant the competition and lower consumer prices, and it did reduce shipping costs. But for drivers, the impact was massive. Suddenly, thousands of new trucking companies entered the market. Rates dropped, union power weakened, profit margins tightened. Large union carriers struggled. Many went bankrupt. Non-union carriers exploded in the growth. By the late 1980s, the trucking industry had shifted from stable union employment to a far more competitive, fragmented system. Drivers who once had negotiating power now faced downward wage pressure. The culture began to shift too. The independent cowboy trucker image survived, but financially, the ground was shifting beneath the wheels. So here comes the 1990s. Technology enters the cab. Technology. Satellite communication systems began replacing the CB radio as the primary connection between drivers and dispatchers. Companies like Qualcomm introduced in-cab tracking and messaging systems. For the first time, trucking companies could track trucks in real time. Paper logbooks were still used, but drivers manually recorded their hours. But oversight increased. GPS routing improved efficiency. Freight networks became more optimized. The upside? Fewer wrong turns, better route planning, more freight opportunities. The downside? Less autonomy, more monitoring. The romantic idea of total independence on the open road started to fade. So here comes the 2000s. Safety, security, and shrinking margins. The early 2000s brought change, especially after 9/11. Security tightened across the transportation industry. Background checks became more rigorous. Hazmat endorsements required deeper screening. At the same time, new federal hours of service regulations were introduced to reduce fatigue-related accidents. Drivers could only drive a set of number of hours per day and week. Safety improved, but flexibility decreased. Then came rising fuel costs. Insurance premiums increased, maintenance costs climbed, and the industry increasingly shifted toward the owner-operator model. Instead of being employees, many drivers became independent contractors, responsible for their own truck payments, fuel, repairs, and insurance. On paper, they were entrepreneurs. In practice, many carried significant financial risk. The 2010s, electronic logs and algorithm era. If deregulation transformed trucking economically, the 2010s transformed it digitally. In 2017, the federal government mandated electronic log devices known as ELDs. Paper logbooks were effectively eliminated. Now hours are automatically recorded, no flexibility, no creative logging, no stretching a delivery window. For safety advocates, this was a major win. For many drivers, it felt like the final loss of autonomy. At the same time, massive logistics companies expanded rapidly, including companies like Amazon. Freight became increasingly time-sensitive. 2-day shipping became 1-day shipping. Expectations changed. The pressure intensified. Dispatch systems became algorithm-driven. Freight rates fluctuated in real time. Drivers increasingly operated inside a digital ecosystem that measured efficiency down to the minute. The 2020s, pandemic heroes and industry strain. When COVID-19 hit, truck drivers became essential workers overnight. I ought to know, I was one of them. While much of the country stayed home, drivers kept moving. They hauled medical supplies, groceries, cleaning products, and vaccines. Suddenly, the country recognized something it had always depended on. Nothing moves without trucks. Freight demand surged, rates spiked, but so did stress. Parking shortages worsened. Supply chain disruptions created long wait times at warehouses, and the long-standing driver shortage became national news. Well, I can tell you right now, there is no driver shortage to this day. There are thousands upon thousands of CDL drivers sitting at home because they're not going to put up the BS no more. The average age of American truck driver today is around the late 40s, early 50s. According to my latest calculations, around 55. Younger workers are less likely to enter the profession. Why? Well, long hours, time away from family, regulatory pressure, financial uncertainty. The job still offers opportunity, but it's no longer the same pathway to a stable middle-class life it once was for many. The trucking industry is almost over. What has stayed the same? Despite 50 years of change, some things haven't changed. The isolation, the sunrises over the desert highways, the sense of responsibility, knowing that what's in your trailer matters to someone, the quiet professionalism. There's still something deeply American about the long-haul trucking. It's freedom mixed with discipline, independence inside a regulated framework, tradition inside a hyper-modern economy. The road ahead? Automation and the future. Now, the next transformation is already underway. Autonomous truck testing is happening across several states. In fact, many trucks are being released this year to go 1,000 miles on their own. Companies are experimenting with self-driving freight corridors. Electronic trucks are entering fleets. Artificial intelligence is optimizing loads. Some predict automation will replace drivers. Others believe drivers will transition into more supervisory or regional roles. But here's what history suggests. Every technological shift in trucking has changed the job, but not eliminated it. From CB radios to satellites, from paper logs to digital compliance, from union halls to independent contracting, the American truck driver adapts. What's my closing reflection on all of this madness? 50 years ago, a truck driver might have carried a road atlas, a thermos, lots of coffee, and a CB handle. Today, they carry a smartphone, an ELD, and a digital dispatch queue. But the core mission remains the same. Move America. When you walk into a grocery store, when your online order arrives in 2 days, when gas flows into a local station, a truck driver made that possible. The industry has changed. The culture has evolved. The economics have shifted. but the road is still there, and someone is still driving on it. Thank you for listening to Rollin' 18 Podcast. We'll see you next time. As always, God bless, be safe, and keep it between the lines, driver.
Thank you for listening to Rollin' 18 Podcast. Please visit Walter's podcast site at rollin18podcast.com or his social media sites such as Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. All links are in the description.